Cadence of Hyrule is a 2019 rhythm-based roguelike dungeon crawler set in the Legend of Zelda, developed by Brace Yourself Games, who made Crypt of the Necrodancer, and published by Nintendo. Many of the mechanics are similar to ones in Necrodancer, including a number of monster rhythms and behaviours being directly lifted from the earlier game, so Necrodancer players will find it easy to adjust to Cadence of Hyrule. What makes this game accessible is that it has a fixed beat mode, which inspired the later no beat mode in Crypt of the Necrodancer. With the beat fixed, you can move at any time, allowing you to take your time with decisions, so you are not punished for slower reaction times or having difficulty with hitting the rhythm, nor for using alternative control schemes and adapters which naturally include time delays. As far as I've found, the only timing challenge left in the game is in the Lost Woods, where you need to move to the beat of Saria's song to wake up Tingle to get a key item. You activate this explosion, it plays a tune, and then the beat marker comes in. With a whole bunch of calibration, I made the command Tingle Puzzle Timing, which will tap right with roughly the right timing, although it only works on the second go because Trill the Fairy pops up to describe the puzzle. Also, if you accidentally hit a cuckoo too much and their attack starts, the incoming cuckoos don't observe the turn-based beat, and it's worth just getting out of there. Making voice controls for this took a little time. I use variable keys here because the voice software can only press keyboard keys, which are then fed through an interface to control the game. I decided to map my directions to the D-pad so I don't deal with any axis sensitivity issues from the joysticks. For general movement, I'll say a direction with or without a number, although I made the maximum number 9, because if the maximum was 10 there's a chance that right 2 could be interpreted as right 10, leading to 8 beats of actions that I didn't plan on and could kill me. Though I did include go followed by a direction, which would hold that direction for 3 seconds, enough to entirely leave one screen and get to the next one. I originally used run as the prefix, but it would occasionally hear right left as run left, again leading to a bunch of actions I didn't intend. Any command that can end your run needs fixing. I've also got commands for pressing a direction and its reverse, for moving the beat along as well as catching the pose that are only vulnerable when they followed me for a beat. I didn't add any further combinations because the more combinations encoded, the greater the chance of them being misheard, and the same for longer sequences. There were some trickier commands to choose. You assign various items to the A, B, X, Y buttons, and will frequently change them. Because any item could be on any button, I settled on remembering the Nintendo 64 controller and how items were assigned in Ocarina of Time, so I called those buttons C up, C down, C left and C right, as I have no idea which way round the A, B, X, Y buttons are. At some point you may find the power glove which lets you lift and pull things, but then the lifting key would depend on which button you assigned it to. So I decided it will only ever be on the X or C up button, and all my push, pull and lift commands only refer to the X button. Technically I could have a system where I tell VoiceAttack which button has the power glove, but then that's a whole bunch of extra coding which I can avoid by only assigning it to C up and leaving it there. The Skull Kid has a bunch of masks that you need to cycle through, and may have from 1 to 6 at any time. The basic version of dealing with those is to say change or swap mask, on its own or with a number after it, the number meaning how many times you have to press the button. I've had ideas about a more advanced system where you tell it which masks you have, and then if you ask it for one you have, and assuming it knows which one you're on, it could press the right number of times to change it. But like with the Power Glove, that's a lot of code for tiny benefit. Some items are fixed to a specific button, whether it's a shield for Link or Nehru's love for Zelda, so the name of those became their command. There's actually a whole bunch of possible things for the L and R keys, given the whole range of characters and special powers each one has. And this broadly meant I forgot to use them at all. There are 3 connected menus: the map, the inventory and the main pause menu. If you've exited the map or inventory and then press plus, it will take you back to which one you are on, but you can also navigate to those from the main pause menu. I've tried setting up a system so VoiceAttack would try to remember whether I was on the map or the inventory, and whichever I ask for it would press the right buttons to take me to it. This is actually tricky to solve. I've got something that works most of the time and can be corrected if it misaligns. There is a Deku Scrub minigame for which there is a survivable movement cycle, so I coded that to run endlessly rather than having to say the same 5 commands on repeat. Some odd consequences of the fixed beat mode. It's tricky to pass time without doing something, which is a problem when you have to wait 1 or 2 beats. For this you can try walking into an unbreakable wall, or if you have an empty item button or the power glove, you can activate it to skip 1 beat. The Skull Kid character has a unique magic for each of his masks. For the Deku mask the ability is to hide underground, however this just lets time pass in spite of the fixed beat mode. This does mean the monsters run around aimlessly instead of towards you, but you have to attempt to time when you come out to avoid being crowded by them. As soon as you do come out, the beat is fixed again. This is quite useful in the final battle as the Skull Kid, when you need to stay on highlighted spots for several beats. While I can use other items to pass the time in that battle, the Deku Mask's ability to hide can make it quite trivial. If you choose to play as Octavo, he has an ability called Haste, which in normal beat play would mean you can move around as fast as you like while the enemies are still restricted to the beat. In fixed beat mode, it makes all enemies take twice as long to do anything. Various boss patterns are scheduled to occur on the beat, and while in base gameplay they would do particular attacks at particular times in the music, that consistency is gone with the beat fixed, so there's less reinforcement for learning boss patterns. Plus the Debongo boss music goes a little wrong. Because this is a roguelike game, the layout of each individual screen, the locations of items and major dungeon areas on the two maps will be different each time you play. Even the dungeon layouts will change each time you enter a dungeon in the same playthrough. This means you are not guaranteed certain useful items before you need them. Beyond the differences in each playthrough, there are different game modes to further the replayability, multiple story modes, a dungeon mode like in Crypt of the Necrodancer, plus puzzle dungeons and extra characters with unique restrictions. Even some achievements, very rare for a Zelda game. And if you're confused about what each weapon type or shrine does, it's worth looking those up. While there is a co-op mode, during fixed beat mode the timing cycle moves whenever either player makes an action, so if they both went around doing their own thing, they'd find enemies moving twice as fast as expected, strategies failing, and the game basically unplayable when one or both players is using voice commands, unless they took really slow turns. Crypt of the Necrodancer adapted this better with their co-op no-beat mode from 2022, where enemies would follow the timing of the player who is closest, letting them run around mostly independently. However, I don't expect Cadence to get an update for this because that fix came in Necrodancer 3 years after development stopped on Cadence, and it's been 2 years since, but perhaps in a future rhythm game it will be the default. Overall, I found it a worthy but comfy challenge. I've got well over 50 hours in it. My runs happen to be really slow, but they are comparable to casual Zelda runs, so the theming fits for me. If you want to see some voice control gameplay videos, click the playlist on screen. While I could try to upload a full run, it would be between 5 and 15 hours long, and that's a bit much to publish.